Rob Rosselli says that America may very well be the great prostitute of Revelation, presented in chapters 17 and 18. Rob has appeared on dozens of talk show interviews around the country on this very topic and passionately believes that he is onto something. The P.P. Simmons channel wanted to present this view since others in the Christian community share it. Rob says ever since the Apostle John wrote the book of Revelation from prison on the Greek island of Patmos, various prophecy experts, religious cults, and biblical seers have tried in vain to interpret its cryptic predictions. Based on world events that seem to the secular mind to be spinning wildly out of control, attempts at interpreting the last book of the Bible have reached fever pitch. Rob says biblical prophecies and current events are in truth beginning to merge at a startling rate. Besides the sometimes misinterpreted concept of Antichrist, a word that is only used by John in the books of 1st and 2nd John, one of the most studied and yet equally misunderstood prophetic concepts of the book of Revelation is that of Mystery Babylon, or the Great Prostitute. That prophecy appears to be the focal point of God's punishment here on earth. More than likely, when one considers all the biblical evidence, the beast of Revelation consists of both a physical and a human entity, Rob says. To be the focal point of God's end-time prophecy is not a good thing. It's akin to being on top of God's most wanted list. Let's first consider, he says, some commonly voiced interpretations of this particular vision of Revelation. Many prophecy experts have identified the Mystery Babylon Revelation entity as the European Union, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and/or the Roman Catholic Church. Others have identified the Great Prostitute as Russia, China, or Japan. However, others believe that none of these represents the economic and political superpower emblematic of the Revelation prostitute. There are those who say that this beastly prostitute of Revelation prophecy could very well be none other than the United States of America. Even though many believe that there are other New Testament scriptures which support this particular interpretation, let us for a moment focus specifically on the Revelation verses from chapter 17, verse 18, the great city that reigneth over the kings of the earth, and Revelation 18:3, which says, all nations drunk of the wine of her fornication. Merchants of the earth waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Also, Rob says, observe Revelation 18:23. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. A number of prophecy authors believe that these passages clearly reveal that the prostitute of Revelation has to be a last days nation of the economic, military, and influential stature currently represented by the United States of America. This interpretation contends that a new world order or a one-world governmental center would most likely be centered in a world-dominating superpower like the United States, Rob says. Additionally, many modern leaders in U.S. politics now use the very terms New World Order in their public and political speaking. Consider also that the United Nations is headquartered in the United States and the economic center of the world is situated at Wall Street, along with its economic engine offshoots, including the IMF, World Bank, and the so-called Federal Reserve Bank, which, by the way, Rob says, is neither federal nor has reserves. Admittedly, this is only a short video. Yet some believe that the view of this video is a more relevant biblical view of the last days entity called the Great Prostitute. Another important fact to keep in mind is that some leaders in the controlling establishment and governmental positions of authority within the United States and the world leadership powers with which they are connected are also reportedly involved in occultic organizations and/or fraternities. The same chapters of Revelation that speak of the great prostitute speak of this very kind of occultic involvement of the ones who are really operating the beast. For by their sorceries were all nations deceived. Their punishment for such occultic involvement, Rob says, is clearly laid out in Revelation chapter 17 and 18. In other words, when one peels away the onion layers of real-time, real-world politics and power-shifting events, you really do end up back in the Bible and faced with some startling choices. As we attempt to make sense of Revelation end-time prophecy, America's place in it certainly must be a serious consideration. While most likely there is no one with perfect understanding or insight into the exact interpretation, we can be certain of this fact: we are living in biblically prophetic times. Nations, kingdoms, and powers are aligning themselves in biblically predicted ways. Is the United States a major player in end-time prophecy? Many Bible readers believe so. Rob Rosselli believes the United States is the major player. As the prophecies continue to unfold before our eyes, more than likely, we will soon find out.